we started with who are we? Who has God made us to be? And then, so what do we look like as pastors when we're really giving our best time and energy to the things that we feel like God has made us to do best, which ends up being the place where God uses us best in other people's lives, but we're also happiest. It's the kind of thing that like you'll wake up early in the morning for and work really hard for. And so if these are the pastors that we're made to be, what kind of church does it make sense for us to lead? And then if this is the kind of church that we're made to lead, what kind of neighborhood does that make sense in?
One of the first conversations we had was kind of, how is leadership going to work? Is one of us going to be a senior pastor and the rest of us like be associate pastors? And we said, what would it look like for our leadership structure to be more egalitarian and that people would serve into areas of their gifts?
We all had a heart for people that had no heart for church. People that they had either had a really painful experience and felt hurt or betrayed by a church, or thought they knew everything that there is about church and had just decided it wasn't for them, or even in places in our culture, they've decided they hate the church.
We started actually dreaming up a vision of what kind of church we would want to pastor, and then started thinking, well, that wouldn't work in a lot of places. So what are some places we know where this would work?
Who are some of the people groups or kind of subcultures that we haven't done a really good job connecting with them and helping them really understand and receive the love of God?
And the neighborhoods just east of Balboa Park here in San Diego we thought would be a perfect place to do something like this.
So we're hoping that the way the kingdom is expressed here is deeply at its core about Jesus, but that it would be local, and that it would be the people here giving praise and worship to Jesus, and that doesn't look exactly like it's going to look other places.
We say that Genesis Church is here to discover and live the way of Jesus. There are two parts in that, the discovering and the living, and we do two things. We do worship and we do apprentice groups. And the worship is that place where we gather, to open ourselves to God's presence and respond. And then our apprentice groups are the second part of that, the live. So we discover the way of Jesus and we live the way of Jesus. And the apprentice groups are, we call them apprentice groups because we wanted a very participatory, very hands-on, engaged, everyone's involved image where we come and we revisit what we're doing in worship, what scriptures and stories are shaping us as a church, and then talking about how do we really put that into flesh in our neighborhood.
The use of the arts also appealed to us, so we had an idea of engaging people and ministering to people through the arts. The church has a history of beautiful art throughout centuries, and just kind of a desire to revive a lot of that use of the arts.
As a preacher of the gospel, I understand and just really get energized by the task of telling God's story and the stories of my neighbors and my neighborhood in a way that we start to see our stories getting caught up in God's story.
We want to be a community where people who come to this church find that their lives are more and more being patterned after the life of Jesus. They're starting to live and look more like him. Whether or not all the answers are the same, that they would be living into the way of Jesus.